Hello, dear viewers. Support me by subscribing to my channel and share my video if you like it. And also, make sure you comment your thought. Now let's start the video. James exhaled softly as the trees in the distance began to thin. They were approaching their destination, and he could feel the apprehension rising within their party. It was natural, of course. A human feels fear towards the unknown. He withdrew his tainto, and felt the white blade fit snugly into the open palm of his hand. No one dared to speak as they entered the deserted town. It was only called a town due to some jade speculation that had run its course a couple of years ago. Now it was just ruins. Either way, they could see their targets. Kisame Hoshigaki and Orochimaru, both standing in the open speaking with their client. Jin wasn't sure why they had chosen such an open place. Maybe it was overconfidence. That didn't matter now, for they had chosen their battlefield. Kukuku Sarutobi Sensei. Jin's eyes widened as Orochimaru continued. To fall into my trap. Hiruzen had already emerged from the shadows, his face as stony as the monument erected to his name. So, you were aware. Orochimaru? I was, he smirks and raises his hands, playfully. It was just too good of an opportunity, and I never cared for Rice in the first place. Jiraiya remained silent, but the anger was almost palpable. And besides, it was you who decided to invade. Don't blame me if some civilians die. Kisame groaned before lifting up his bandaged blade. Wanna cut the banter already, Snake? Jiraiya ignores him, bursting into action. His hands fly outwards as he launches a probing punch onto his former teammate, only to be blocked by the back of Orochimaru's elbow. Jiraiya glares while Orochimaru just smiles. Hey, so eager are we, Jiraiya. You never could beat me before in the past. His monologue is interrupted by a strike from Hiruzen, and the snake leaps backwards. The battle lulls once more as both parties watch. Jin looks towards Kisame and comments, I don't know if I should get involved. He nods sagely. Seems a bit personal, you know. Maybe we can duke it out. It's an acceptable outcome. And Jin rushes towards the Shark Man, both of their blades clashing together in rapid flashes of steel. Jin had the advantage in speed and maneuverability, while Kisame has greater power and reach. But Jin knows that he will get overpowered if the Semenhata's full power is used. He is struggling to get by right now, so he focuses slowly as his chakra crackles and pushes. When Kisame's sword falls, there is a moment for Jin to leap over it and score a hit. To use it as a platform. It's a stupid and reckless idea, but it's the best he has so far. Both of them are still testing the waters. Huh, Kisame comments. Didn't know Hataka Kakashi was so good with a sword. Jin smiles under his mask, at least his disguise is working. He doesn't know why he has to act like Kakashi while on missions, but Danzo tells him it is so that he can live a peaceful life. No fame and annoying fangirls, he says, but that's not relevant now. In this moment, Kisame is distracted enough for him to charge the chakra slowly leaking out of his hands. He grinds it together, focusing it into a point around his blade. He does not possess a Sharingan, so to use this is a leap of fate. 1. Kasame raises his blade. 2. Jainseer is narrow. Now! And he rushes forward, his own variation of the Chidori chirping to life as his blade dances into Kisame's shoulder. His opponent turns back, putting distance between them. Wasn't expecting that. He tests his right hand, and Jin smirks to see him struggling. Optical jutsu combined with an assassination technique. You shouldn't have been cocky, Kisame chuckles. We both know this fight isn't important, don't we? Jin raises an eyebrow. What do you mean? Orochimaru, he doesn't fit in with our plan. I couldn't care less if he died. There is a sense of extreme distaste within the Sharkmen, and Jin frowns. Is he too immoral even for you? Jin is curious as he turns his attention to the brawl occurring between teacher and student. I guess you could say that. So how about we finish it right here, Hatake? Jin considers it. Very well then, Hoshigaki Kisame. I shall not forget this. Neither will I, brat, he smirks, before leaping into the air. Well, that's done. Kasami chuckles as he turns towards Maruchiya. Didn't think that you would let Hatake go. Let them bask in their self-assuredness. Orochimaru would only get us entangled in more messes than he could ever provide us success. Kisame pauses, his brows furrowed in thought before shrugging. Well then, I don't see why we could have dealt some damage to those Leafnin. Hikimedera flinch slowly and wonders if there is some still scars from the past. Food for thought, he muses. It is irrelevant. Besides, the longer the leaf fights in rice, the sooner this world will be engulfed in a new war. Making our plan a whole lot easier, huh? You really got it all figured out, don't you? He doesn't get any response from Madara, who simply rubs his head. Hiruzen moves swiftly to the side as he exhales a great gust of flame, incinerating Orochimaru's mud clones. He had noticed that Jin had managed to make Hoshigaki retreat, which would even the odds in their favor. His old student is on the defensive due to both his and Jiraiya's presence. It's over, Orochimaru. Jiraiya looks conflicted, and Hiruzen pauses. Surrender, and maybe we can talk about this. Those words are interrupted by the silver sheen of the Kusanagi, and Hiruzen can make out the frustration within the snake's eyes. His swings pick up in power as Jiraiya moves back. To be abandoned like this, with a touch of his thumb, he plucks a droplet of fresh blood from his cheek. Summoning Nanda. The colossal serpent emerges from the cloud of smoke, and Hiruzen can see Orochimaru making a retreat. Hiruzen knows that only one of them can pursue at this moment, and he turns toward Jiraiya. They look back at each other, eyes a mirror to the sorrow within their hearts. Jiraiya knew this battle was staged, the moment Hoshigaki retreats. It's clear that Orochimaru has become even worse of a team player since the last time they fought. His heart knows this song. He has met Orochimaru before and tried each time to convince him. Never once has he succeeded, and each time his heart had crumpled inward. What could he say? Due to change his old friend's heart. And steadily, he had begun to lose hope, to slowly despair as his failures caught up to him. When he locks eyes with his sensei, he knows that he can't pursue. He doubts Sarutobi can see it. That shine of desperation, that desire to see things ended. Jiraiya has had his endings, and he has tried. But sensei hasn't. So, he places his hand on the ground and summons Gambata to do battle with Manda. He looks at his sensei and nods. Hiruzen nods back, and Jiraiya does what he has always done. He hopes for a better future. Hiruzen can see the root agents fighting against the veritable army of snakes Orochimaru summoned during his retreat, along with some sound shinobi who had joined the battle midway. Nonetheless, he steels his heart and moves forward. His hands slam against the floor, summoning Monkey King Enma. So, you finally decided to get serious, Sarutobi. Enma frowns as he follows alongside the Hokage through the forest leaves. Hiruzen just nods. I must face my regrets now. He remembers their first meeting. Orochimaru had always been curious, all too ready to learn about the world. How he wished it stayed that way. Enma watches him slowly, before nodding. I can see your resolve. Good. Good. Don't fail this time. And the staff returns to Hiruzen's hands. He lands in the clearing and can see Orochimaru turn, panting and visibly tired. The boy who he had raised as a son, who he had loved so much, and now he has to destroy him. How does it feel, Sarutobi-sensei? Orochimaru asks, while raising his sword. Hiruzen's response is to close the gap between them. No words can change his mind now. No, he is resolved for once. This staff is a symbol of this promise. As they clash, Hiruzen can see the increasing frustration within his former pupil's eyes. Can you not even deny your own creation? Why do people die, Sarutobi-sensei? Is there a way for us to live forever? So that we don't have to feel this way? He grips Orochimaru's right forearm and pulls sharply. His opponent is pulled closer, and he smalls his hands together. Katan, great fireball! Orochimaru disengages, substituting before weaving his own seals. Sutin! Water wall. Fire and water meet, and wisps of steam flood their makeshift arena. It's obvious that Orochimaru will try to escape in the fog, but Hiruzen is 2 steps ahead. Futon, great breakthrough. The mist blows away, and the Sandame lets loose the Fumashuriken within his hands. Guided by ninja wire, they pull toward Orochimaru, only for his wayward student to bend and flex out of the way. What had he done to his body? To mutilate your body, your soul in such a manner? Hiruzen looks at Orochimaru's face, aglow with relish at his words. It is clear that you will never change. Words have no meaning in your world, one where there are no rules. And Orochimaru laughs, letting the theatrical side of him show. He smiles sinisterly. Why would you care, sensei? Wasn't it you who authorized the experiments, you who let them continue? His face shows no feelings. There is silence as the teacher and student consider each other. Only one will walk away alive. They both know this. Yet why do they fight? Hiruzen raises his hands like he has done so many times before. As Hokage, my duty is to punish you for your crimes against the Hidden Leaf. As a teacher, it is my responsibility for your crimes and for your growth. And his eyes close, and tears fall out of them. The liquid of lament touches the wet grass, yet his voice does not waver. As a father, your sins are my own. It is true, it is Hiruzen's fault. His fault for letting Orochimaru run, letting him conduct such horrible deeds. And Orochimaru sneers, and Hiruzen knows his words will have no impact. I am a Hokage first. I shall kill you here, Sarutobi-sensei. Orochimaru's voice is mocking, his words slippery and barbed. You've grown old and weak, and Hiruzen nods, and 4 violet walls are erected around them by the rude agents. There is no turning back. One shall stand, one shall fall. Their dance is nothing but the tapestry of war. Many describe war as well, but in reality, war is worse than hell. For there are no innocents in hell. Both of them are fools, nothing but fools. But yet they continue. No jutsu are used, nothing but staff and sword. Perhaps Orochimaru still has a sense of honor left within his hollowed-out skin. Hiruzen thinks, but in reality the snake has wasted much of his chakra in his getaway and had to fight both Jiraiya and Hiruzen at the same time. History will remember Orochimaru as a monster, nothing but a mindless beast so obsessed with his pursuit of immortality. No one will praise him except the deranged and insane. No one except the few that knew him. And Hiruzen knows this. He knows of the cursed seal of Orochimaru's soul fragments. There is only one jutsu. But does he have the conviction to do such a feat? He had his happy ending. He had his students. It's better to honor Konoha by living than dying. He had his friends. He can't help but think of Danzo and how far he's come. And in this moment he makes his choice. Orochimaru is beyond redemption, but maybe he can find peace in the afterlife. He forms 2 shadow clones, interrupting the two's battle of Jutsu and Brawn. Rushing forward, Orochimaru raises his sword, only for Hiruzen to counter with the final gift Danzo had given him. A cursed seal. What? His hands rush through the hand seals as he reflects on his life. For at the end sound was finished. Rice was defeated, without a single causality. The leaf would be in good hands with Danzo. He thinks of Minato and smiles slowly. Naruto, I'm sorry. There are 1,000 things Hiruzen wants to say to everyone he had ever loved. To his son Asuma, to his excitable grandson. But he is tired and done. He makes out Jiraiya and the rest of the shinobi arriving, and sighs peacefully. Reaper Death Seal. The contract is made, a soul for a soul. His duty as Haka is done, so he embraces Orochimaru. The boy stabs him with the kusanagi, rage blooming across his face. Damn you! He smiles at Orochimaru, at the boy he had raised as a son, and speaks slowly. These are the final words of Hiruzen Sarutobi. God of Shinboi, the professor, 3rd Hokage, teacher and student, loving father and son. Farewell, my disciple. There is nothing but tenderness in his expressions, and he can make out Jiraiya yelling in the distance. My greatest regret. His body crumbles as both him and Orochimaru start to dissolve. His student curses him, shouting in rage, for even now, he is still a child. A lonely boy crying at the loss of his parents was never understanding you. The walls collapse, and the 3rd Hokage is gone. Where the tree leaves dance, one shall find flames. The fire's shadow will illuminate the village, and once again, tree leaves shall bud anew. I listen to the message. He's dead. I can feel wetness around my eyes. To my surprise, Hiruzen is gone now, his sacrifice destroying any chances of the snake ever returning, along with the entirety of Sound's forces. The war is over. My plan succeeded, and Rice can now be rebuilt in Konoha's image. Then why am I crying? Elder, are you crying? I pause, looking back at the telegraph. One of the many things I had built to complete my goals. But yet, there is nothing but static that fills the dimly lit room as I lean back in my chair. It's because he was your friend, right? My lips curve upwards as I smile softly at Jin's words. Where is this coming from now, Jin? There's a pause before he responds. It hurts. Losing a friend, people try to hide their sadness. I did before I knew what it did. Before I met you. Secure sound and the capital. Jin, I'll send more orders tomorrow after the news is released to the council. That's... Thank you, I finally say. My voice is hoarse, and I sigh softly. And good luck. I can almost see Jane's somber smile. Yes, sir. The line disconnects, and I get up slowly. In my previous life, I had lost my best friend. He hadn't died. No, he had just moved away. We had forgotten about each other. There were times when I would dream and meet him again. For the following days, I would feel sorrow before eventually forgetting his face once more. My hands brush against a photo on my desk. It sits next to the team picture of Team Danzo, Kakashi, Gei, and Tenzo. My eyes gaze at Team Tobirama. I lift it up into the light and take in Hiruzen's smile and my own frown. My own, because I'm Danzo now. Tobirama, Kagami, Kuharu, Homura, Hiruzen. I might not be the Danzo, you know, but I shall create the world you all dreamed of. I place the frame back on my desk and leave the room. To all of Konoha, the funeral for the third Hokage was the grandest they had ever had. His coffin was emblazoned with the seal of the Hokage wrapped in fiery red and blinding white. But most important was its location. An entire field had been cleared, with seating for the entire village installed overnight. A large dais was placed in the center, to the right of Hiruzen's final resting place. To the other side was a beautiful portrait of the Kaji in his youth, but most important was the mausoleum built for him, made of white marble and constructed in a completely different architectural style, sitting behind the portrait and casket. It was tall, and from its top a flag flew, the seal of the Hokage along with the emblem of the Tsurutobi, and the centerpiece for the funeral was the full marble statue dedicated to him, depicting him meditating on his iconic staff. Countless villagers and shinobi were getting seated when a group of shinobi arrived and landed next to the mausoleum. They carried black cases, and murmurs could be heard within the crowd. It took some time for everyone to arrive. The rice war was staffed by only half of Konoha's forces who had returned for the funeral. A second smaller commemoration would be held once the two halves switched. Everyone grew silent when an old man stepped to the dais. Danzo Shimura, shadow of the shinobi and teammate of the third. He gazed at the massive crowd and sighed softly before clearing his throat. We gather here today to honor Hiruzen Tsurutobi, our third Hokage. He was a friend, a teacher, a student, and a father. Many knew and loved him. Many are they that share in my grief, but he, in his dying breaths, had not only repulsed Kusame Hoshigaki, but defeated Orochimaru along with the entirety of Sound's forces. Such gallantry, such bravery is why he was our Hokage. He inhales slowly, gazing at the people of the village. Hiruzen was my oldest and most trusted friend. He died to uphold our village's rights, our integrity. He was a shinobi to the end, a hero of old Reborn. But words alone cannot convey what the heart says. So I have erected this. He spread his arms and turned towards the glorious monument. No leader in our time has had such a grave. Let this be the symbol of our glory, and let us take heart in his name, his actions. He then motioned to the group of shinobi who had stood waiting to the side, who withdrew from their cases various metal tubes and stringed instruments. A musical performance, thought the residents of Konoha. Then the music began. O great leader, let our hearts be open to your words. O people, hear Hiruzen Tsurutobi, Sandai Mei Hokage. Let your will turn to flame. Let your ashes scatter across these plains, and from scattered hopes, O people, a new fire shall be born. And from the reflected flame comes shadow. The old monkey crawls from the forest, giving 3 his teachings. 1 snake who shuts his ears to wisdom, 1 slug who cannot open her heart, and 1 toad who alone remembered the path. From snake came tragedy, from slug came withered hopes, but from toad was our hope, the torch relit, passion rekindled and spirit reformed. Hero of the night, who fought to the bitter end. Let his memory burn here. O people, first there was the Shode, whose dreams made our city brothers of 2. 1 dark and 1 light. In the mold of Ashura and Indra, their sacrifices, their hearts. To the younger, the throne fell, and from teacher to student did it pass. And a god of shinobi was formed. He who fought, he who died, He who lived, O people, let us not forget love. Let us not forget peace. But let us never forget those who gave their lives for us. The somber melody carried throughout the open field, and only afterwards the people of Konoha be given the chance to give their final gifts to the departed Sandame. Anuki paused slowly as he read the paper and placed it on his desk. He silently lifted the glass of sake to his mouth and took a sip. It was warm, thick, and honey-like. Hiruzen was dead after leading the invasion of Rice, all to destroy his wayward student. Rumors of his last stand had already spread, and the old Kage smiled listening to them. It was heartening to hear of his rival in such a way, regardless of the two's rocky relationship. Hiruzen would be missed. But most important was the matter of Rice. Konoha had forced the daimyo to sign away the entire nation to the Land of Fire, and were already building military outposts. The sheer amount of movement of shinobi through the Land of Fire was extremely troubling, and Onoki knew how powerful the Hidden Leaf was now. Having access to both of the major oceans, not to mention how quickly Rice had been defeated, Konoha's usage of extreme foreign, as reported by his spies, was also quite concerning. He was no fool. Earth was running out of strong shinobi, and Konoha had seemed to produce a new one every month in these past years. He gritted his teeth. Reform was needed if they would be able to stand up to the Leaf, especially if aggressions spiked up over the rice trade. The daimyo had already told him to lessen the embargo, in order for the merchants to gain access to Rice's rice market. Even when they lacked a Kage, Konoha still pushed out new plans, and Onoki knew just who was behind it. Danzo Shimura, the shadow of the shinobi. But what was the end goal? Hiruzen was content with a watchful peace. But if that Warthog was pulling the strings, Onoki leaned back in his chair. The path forward was clear. The Land of Rice's fate was the result of extreme deliberation with the daimyo and nobles. It would be partitioned into individual estates, each given to a lord and assigned a shinobi presence from the Leaf to nurture talent and protect the people. Each of these lords would be subjects of the daimyo of the Land of Fire. However, the shinobi would still have the majority of the control of the land, due to the governor, who would manage shinobi affairs and answer to the Hokage and daimyo. Essentially, it was a complete annexation, and the shinobi world would not be taking that lying down. Ruzier's hands gripped the scroll in his hand, and he couldn't help smiling at Konoha's sheer courage, for them to actually invade Sound and then annex it. Perhaps this alliance wasn't so bad, especially since his overtures at the daimyo's court had finally paid off. The missions amounted to Sona had massively increased, with several new companies being formed around minerals and desert farming becoming frequent customers. Not to mention the new deal negotiated between Konoha and Suna. It was something that Rasu would never have agreed to, but seeing Gaara able to sleep and talk to his other children had somehow touched his heart. Shiro had talked to the Ichibi to not bother Gaara, and Rasu was no fool. Gaara's power had grown rapidly once he had regained control of his sanity, and perhaps he would have the talent to become Kazekage one day. The Sharingan had the ability to control the Biju. Razan knew that well. In this deal, it would guarantee Konoha and Suna's joint prosperity. He signed the marriage contract between Hinata Hyuga and Gaara of the Desert. Terumi Mei just couldn't deal with Ryujin. He was insufferable, constantly blithering on and on about flying and advanced techniques that she could care less about. It had earned him the nickname Needy from the camp, due to his similarities to Konoha's Needy. Nevertheless, she was happy to have Konoha's support. She had heard of their annexation of Rice, but was well aware of the reality of the shinobi world. The large number of supplies, additional troops, and proper facilities they had received had made the deal worthwhile, especially since Konoha had a nearby base on Wave. "Are you listening, Teroi?" He pushed his face into hers, and she could feel the anger rising. "This is very important. The Yondame is a Jinchuriki, meaning that we will have to be prepared to seal the Sanbi. This is why we must plan this assault to the most minute detail." She stared at him and then smiled sweetly. "Of course, Nidkun. Please, go on." He paused and then smirked in victory. "We shall strike in a week's time." Yasui pushed open the door to his home and exhaled slowly. The war effort had been tiring, even with its short length. He could see that the children were fast asleep. After all, it was midnight. With a light glimpse of the Byakugan, he takes notice of a seal placed on the coffee table in the center of the room. Reaching to pick up, he sees the seal of Danzo Shimura and sighs. His work never ends. No matter how much time he tries to spend with Hinata and Hanabi ever since their mother passed away, the war has Konoha running ragged. And with the Sandaime's passing, Danzo has only increased military production. There are already rumors spreading of the academy moving to rapid graduation, just to keep producing fodder shinobi. Either way, he moves towards the door once more. Yatsui sits in the Hokage's office, mindful of Danzo relaxing in the chair that belonged to the Sandaime. Yatsui wonders why Danzo is being so open and obvious about his desire for the seat, but ignores those thoughts. This is the most secure position within the village. It shall suffice for our talks. Straight down to business, then. Yachi straightens his face and steels his jaw. Very well then, Danzo. What proposal do you have for me? He watches the elder's single eye closely, reading for anything. He sees nothing but shadows in the darkness of the dimly lit office. A marriage proposal for Hinata Hyuga. Hiashi pauses slowly. Such proposals are not common, but they are usually directly handed to him, unless the proposal is from a foreign village. He silently ponders the situation. If he wants Hinata to be strong, she will need to take her own steps. But is relocating to a foreign village the right steps? It could be described as presumptuous for you to sit in that seat, Lord Shimura. Yashi is well aware of his own use of the honorific, but continues on. But I'm sure this discussion will remain private. Danzo smiles at him, as if Yashi is a child. It is quite interesting for you to say that, Yashi. I must admit, it would be a shame if you suddenly disappeared. The tension in the room rises, and Yashi finally understands, before Danzo was restrained by Hiruzen. He couldn't just make people disappear without good cause. But now, Danzo controls all of Konohagakure. The clan council had been dismantled under the Sandaime's final orders, and the resulting shinobi council was mostly selected by Hiruzen and Danzo jointly. But with Hiruzen dead, the reforms were left to Danzo to be carried out. Yatsui looks at the details. Yadara, son of the Yondaime Kazukage and Jinchuriki to the One-Tails. From the reports, the boy was a complete psychopath, rapidly descending into madness and going on rampages through sand. And as he looks at Danzo, he can't even understand. Kankuro, the elder brother of Gay, would have been a much better pick. Politically, why? It is all he can muster. It's not like he has a choice. No wonder Danzo called him here, away from his children. Danzo exhales slowly. Did you know what the Shada's wife said about being a Jinchuriki? You must fill the container with love, otherwise they will collapse. I will not sacrifice my daughter. The two face off, before Danzo relents. You have 1 week. A house is already ready in Sona, and I shall send a shinobi to guide you to your destination. Well done, Consulate Hiashi. Consulate, you are to represent Konoha and our wishes. Do not disappoint me. Yatsui smirks, almost to hide the anger he faces. It's sarcasm, he realizes. So, I am not being stripped of everything. We are not Kumo. I will guarantee your prosperity and the safety of your daughter within the hidden sand, says Danzo. It's a concession, or whatever flies as kindness within the Warhawk's brain. What can he say? If he refuses, he will be killed. Or worse, his children will be punished. For all your talk about equality and freedom, you don't seem to like it very much, Lord Shimura. Danzo appears almost apologetic in the fading shadows of the room. He turns in the chair, facing away from Hiashi. Things are changing, Haxi. Evil is moving in the shadows. Evil beyond my power to fight alone. Humanity is weak, feeble in its mind, and fading. Only united can we win the coming fight. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. It's not worth much. Only years later, will Hiashi learn the truth of those cryptic words uttered by Danzo on this fateful night, in the shadow of the Sandaime. But at that moment, he nurses his rage and leaves the room. He will have to tell his family, warn his friends. The leaf is changing, and he is unsure whether he likes it or not. Hinata has become sullen and depressed from the news. Hiashi can do little, except offer her whatever kindness he can spare. He is busy getting his affairs together and warning all those he knows of the new leaf. He doesn't have the heart to protest anymore. Not when he read the letter from the Yondaime Kazukage addressed to him personally. Perhaps he better understands the perspective of a leader now. The sacrifices one must make. His mind flashes to the Yondaime and his own son, Naruto Uzumaki. Who is he to judge? He had driven his daughter to tears, hadn't he? At the very least, he will give the boy a chance. There's not much more he can do. Not with Danzo steadily taking control of the leaf. Naruto looks at Hinata. Today is her last day in the academy, And last day in the Hidden Leaf, he doesn't fully understand. But Jin has told him that it is about politics and big things he can't fathom. But that doesn't mean he can't understand the sadness on Hinata's face. Even Sasuke had noticed, and the entire class had supported her. Her dad was being sent to Sana as the head consulate, and that meant Hinata was going with him as well. Everything had changed ever since war had broken out. Naruto still remembered the Sandami's funeral, the grief fresh in his mind. It was in everyone's mind. The future appeared uncertain and murky, with talk of a third Shinobi war. Kakashi has become busier, and even Kaito had to cut back on the time he spent hanging out with Naruto. But it was just the two of them now, standing outside the school. Come on, Hinata, you'll get to see a new place, and we'll still be friends. Naruto had gotten her new address and promised to send plenty of letters. He had managed to convince Sasuke to do the same. Hey? It's not like that, she muttered under her breath. Wunyan mean then. Naruto pushed his face into Hinata's curiosity, dotting his face. She sputters and turns away once more. Come on, he asks once more, but Hinata refuses. And Naruto, tired of Hinata's timidness, blurts out, if you never tell anyone your problems, you're always going to be sad, you know? She looks at him slowly, and Naruto wonders what that foreign emotion in her eyes are. He scratches his neck awkwardly. At least you have your dad and sister, and we'll always be friends. You can still follow your dreams, Hinata. Believe it. And that's the issue, isn't it? It's something that is locked from her reach, the star she reached for. And she decides to finally be courageous. But it's too little, too late. It was a fool's hope. I can't achieve my dreams, Naruto. There is no stutter, no added honorific. She looks at him, straight in the eyes. Because I love you. You. What? Naruto is shell-shocked. He's only 8, and Hinata says she loves him. I wanted to be just like you, strong and always smiling. No matter how many people put you down, you would keep going. Naruto is speechless, and Hinata continues, but I've been arranged to marry the son of the Kazekage, to live in sand forever. My future has been chosen for me, and I can't do anything. That's... She looks at him, begging for some catharsis, some strong emotion. Maybe Naruto will tell her that he loves her too. Naruto looks at her, a gentle expression blooming on his face. And Hinata realizes that her dream was worthless, and in her shame runs away from the academy, leaving Naruto behind. Hinata, she isn't brave, she isn't strong. Her tears dot the dirt path as her feet carry her away. Naruto's calls fading away in the distance. Hiyashi pauses at the gate, turning to gaze at his 2 children next to him. A carriage has been arranged to make it easier for him. He snorts at the idea of Danzo being considerate and can see a clocked shinobi waiting. Hinata had remained sullen and withdrawn during their final day in the Hidden Leaf, and Hanabi was too young to remember anything significant. He nods at Hisashi, who embraces him. The cursed bird seal is long gone, and the two are finally equal. Good luck, brother. I shall keep your words to heart. Hyaxley chuckles. Take good care of Naji. He smiles at his nephew and ruffles his hair. The rest of the farewells are similar, simple promises to keep in touch and wishing good luck. His children had already entered the carriage when he turned to the current ambassador, Shiro Takahashi, black hair and the Konoha headband proudly displayed. A pleasure, Shiro smiles, and Hiyashi smiles back. As they shake hands, Hiyashi leans in and whispers, Are you Danzo's as well? Shiro looks at him and smirks. That's all the answer Hiyashi needs. But Shiro's eyes flash red, the crimson Sharingan gazing back at him. I shall ensure that Lady Hinata not come to any harm from the Buju. Yashe. Hatsu exhales a sigh of relief that he hadn't known he was holding. So, Danzo does keep his promises. Shiro chuckles, but gives no other response. Shall we be on our way, then? Yaxley nods, and Shiro motions towards the front as the carriage starts moving forward. The two enter the inside and sit down. Yaxley sighs at Hinata's continued downcast expression, but his thoughts are interrupted by shouts of wait. Hinata's head snaps up as she turns her head to the window, and at the gate of the Hidden Leaf, standing there is Uzumaki, Naruto, face alight with determination. Hey, Hinata, he shouts, and Hashi can see the Anbu moving around him, but they don't stop him, interestingly enough. The boy grins widely as he waves. If you think you can run from me, you've got a whole nother thing coming. 'Cause this Naruto I know wouldn't back down, no matter what. Hinata's eyes are wide, and Hiyashi wonders slowly what the two children's relationship is. Could it be? Naruto can't fully understand what love is, but he can understand empathy. You don't know how the Kazekage's son feels. Both of you are in this together, and you can't just give up. I always give everything my 100%. No matter what, that's who I am. Believe it. Naruto, Hinata murmurs softly as the boy starts to fade into the distance. And I know you will too, Hinata. Don't call this a goodbye, 'cause we will meet again, that's a promise. And Hinata pushes her head out of the window, much to the chagrin of the adults, and waves back. She doesn't have the courage to say anything, not yet, but one day she will. Shiro pushed open the door and moved to the side. Greeting him was the residence acquired for the Konohan embassy and officers. He turns towards Hiyashi, who ushered his children in. Thank you, Shiro. The man sighs, and Shiro feels a twinge of guilt. Perhaps he should be nicer. It is my job, Hiyashi-san. Do you need anything else? No, at least not now. Do you know where I could get some food at the very least? Shiro nods. I'll bring some. Tomorrow morning I'll show you around, and we can meet with the Kazekage. Axie exhales and places his hand on the wall. All right. With a nod of his head, Shiro leaves in a swirl of leaves, body flicker carrying him away. Best to give the Hyuga some of Suna's less esoteric cuisine. Fired lizard would be overkill, now that he thinks of it. At the end, he gets lamb kebabs, along with some freshly baked bread. Personally, he does not detest his current post. It is one without a level of creativity. All he does is follow orders. Idly, he reminisces about Shisui and Kaito. Kaito, no doubt, has been sent to the newly conquered Sound. He knows Danzo, knows him too well. Danzo is a man of masks, kindness, rage, cruelty. Even now, Shiro doesn't know what Danzo is. How can someone stomach such cruelty? Even now, he has not forgotten Project Venom. As much as he wants to, he never can. As his eyes turn ruby red, black Tomo dotting them, he remembers. They morph into something else. The blood on his hands, the face of his broth. No, perhaps that is why he despises the Uchiha. Knowing their true faces, he knows all too well the curse of hatred, and the love that drives it. That is why he still follows Danzo. Not because he trusts the shadow of the shinobi, because he can see no other way. For there to be light, there must be shadow. Even now, he bears his name. Takahashi. Yaxi crumples into his desk, looking over the binder of documents given to him by Shiro. This new job lets him be close to his children, no doubt, but he is still busy. Perhaps the future will be kinder to him, he muses. The sun has set, heralding his first night and Suna's completion. His eyes turn towards the box of takeout, handily provided by his new aide. It's interesting, a Hyuga and Uchiha, now that there are no more clans. There are no more clan secrets working together. He yawns as he gets up, moving towards the bedroom. It's going to be a long day tomorrow. Rosier flexes his chakra, the golden dust moving to his will. It pursues its opponent, ripping into the ground and tearing through the air. He smirks, seeing the distance between him and Takahashi. So, boy, tell me, do you feel confident challenging Akagi now? To that, Shiro chuckles. Lord Kazekage, I wish to continue. His lips curve upwards as he bowed, and Rosier raises one eyebrow. Then, pushing his body forward in one great leap, the bastard closes the distance between the two. Rosier lets him, raising his hands and rushing through seals. So done. Water wave. The water spirals around him, while he reaches the gold dust within. The forming whirlpool, his chakra wraps around the particles within the wave, forming large golden rotors. The water roars, spiraling around him, spurred on by his magnet release. It is why he earned the title of Yondaime Kazekage. There is a certain irony here, he muses. Every one of his techniques was created by him to counter Shikaku, raging water infused with gold dust to break away the Ichibi's sand, and reach Gagar. Shiro watches, measuring his options. Danzo had given him specific instructions to measure the strength of the Kazekage, and take the necessary measures to ensure Suna's strength. The current battlefield was a flat one, without any significant geographic advantages. Rosier's water jutsu is only defensive, but can be easily neutralized. Reaching for his holster, he leaps into air, firing of a barrage of kunai tipped with timed explosive seals. As they enter the whirlpool, he triggers them while activating his Sharingan. With the added reflexes, it's simple for him to leap onto the water, deftly navigating its currents while dodging Ras's golden dust attacks. The Kazekage rises into the air on a cloud of shining old and dismisses the water. It appears I have underestimated you. Shiro looks up at him. It appears you have, Lord Kazekage. Rosea smiles at the retort. Then you have impressed me, Konoha-nin. We can continue this later. I do believe we have a meeting now. Do we not? Inwardly, the fourth Kazekage was impressed with the daring of Shiro. Courage and cunning were essential tools to all shinobi. And for securing the seal of Gaira, Rosea was more than willing to spar with him. Maybe he would even be able to learn some new tricks. Gaara followed his father, wondering what had happened. Mother had become silent after the cloaked man had come to visit him. She had screamed for blood, roaring and cursing, but was quiet now. But the clocked man had returned and played with Gakra. It was amusing, being able to toy with a flesh sack. But Gakra was confused. Should he sacrifice him for Mother? He couldn't hear her anymore, so he decided to ignore him for now. It was all for his enjoyment. Where are we going, father? Gaara stared blankly at the house standing in front of his eyes. His father frowned, pausing at the door. Gaara, now that you can rest, you will be expected to uphold your duty as my son. Son? It was a word Gaara had craved to hear from his father's mouth, to gain some sense of validation, but never once had he received it. Demon, monster, Omni. That was what he was, a beast born of love, but perhaps the old Gaara still existed, the one that had prayed so much for a friend. Rosea took this chance to place his hand on Gaara's shoulder. His eyes narrowed. You are to be engaged, Gaara. Your wife is Hinata Hyuga of the Leaf. You two shall be friends, and I shall not tolerate failure in this regard. You are not a monster. You are no longer just a weapon. You are Gaaraza of the desert, heir to the Yondaime Kazekage. The creases on his face became more pronounced, as sorrow and regret washed over his face. If only Yaxmoryu was still here, perhaps this would have been easier. Gaara watched, keeping his face neutral. He was no longer a weapon, no longer a monster. Those concepts were all foreign to him, ideals he could not comprehend. What should I do then, if I do not kill? What will Mother say? He was genuinely curious. His father had suddenly taken an interest in him, and what for? Rosea cringed at the mention of Mother and sucked air into his lungs. Gaara, he said softly. His tone was gentle. Perhaps now it was time to tell the truth. Your mother loved you. She loved you more than everything. Gaara stared back at him, and it took Rosset a few seconds to see the utter disinterest in his son's face. Yasmura said she hated me. He said it only because I told him to. Roseo says, leaning down to Gaird's level, it is not the pose of the Kazekage, it is the image of a father. His voice breaks, age-old regret crawling up his throat. It is jagged and hard, and only makes his intonation harder. If there was anyone who he hated, it would be me. Your mother gave birth to you, crying and praying for your safety. As Gadarazan rushed towards Rasa's hand, Rasa closed his eyes. That sand defense is not the Shukaku's. It was your mother's final gift. Or what? Gadar's eyes dilate rapidly, his world crashing down. This time there is no mother screaming for blood, allowing him to yell out his anger. His mind is clear, and for once, it hurts. But why? Why would you try to kill me? It was the same question he had asked those many nights before. His voice was filled with desperation, crying out for an answer. Because the simple truth is, Gaara was still a child. He had not grown a single step beyond the night on which Yaxmaru had died. To him, it was nothing, but a dream painted in red and yellow. And his mother, she loved him. As he looks at the sand in his hand, and back to his father's tired gaze, he can feel something wet falling out his eyes. What's this, Yari realizes, is what Yaxmari had told him about so long ago. Love. It is not the false love he had made, engraved on his forehead in blood-red kanji. Gaira, when you are a leader, you must make sacrifices. We all must measure the value of things. The Kazekage looked up at the desert sun, and my duty as Kazekage always came first. It's almost someone splashed cold water on Gaira's face, like he has finally woken up from a dream. He will not immediately forgive Rasa, and there will be times when that same regret fills Rasa's throat when he speaks to his youngest, because that is what love is. It is medicine for your heart. It is what makes us human. Gurcha reaches for his father's robes. something which he had wished to do for ages. Their tears wash away in the shining morning sun, and Rasa sighs happily. Come now. Gaara nods. Maybe he doesn't have to be a monster. Maybe he can be loved. Rosier shakes hands with Hiashi. Inwardly, he is thankful for confessing his sins to Gaara. The boy had calmed down and wouldn't attempt to simply kill the Hiergeris. Sand would finally rise from the pit it had fallen from, but part of him remembers Gaara's tears and Yaksmaro's anger. He was wrong about his son, wrong on how to create a weapon. He recalls Hiro's words on Jinchuriki. A Jinchuriki must be given love, for all the Baju know is hate. Hatred of those that caged them, and a Jinchuriki should never succumb to this. It was a unique take created in the leaf, and Rasa could see the logic behind it. But he knew his true mistake, making no distinction between beast and child. If he had given Gaara the care, the kindness the boy had craved, he would not have become a monster. It was true, Gaara was no monster until Rasa had turned him into one. It is a pleasure to meet you, Lord Kazekage. He places a hand on the older girl's shoulder. This is Hinata, my elder daughter, and Hiashi motions towards the younger girl. My younger Hanabi. Rosier nods in acknowledgement, moving his hand towards Gaxa. This is my youngest son, Gaxa. My other children were busy today. Yaxley smiles slowly. Why don't the kids talk for a while, Lord Kaziak? I'm sure we have much to discuss. Rosier turns towards Gala and squeezes his shoulder. Do good, he tries to say. I see no issue with that. Hinata's first impression of Gaara, the boy she is to marry, is his eyes. They are ringed by black, almost as if he has not slept in years. The silence encompasses the two, while Hanabi watches. She is too young, and waddles away in boredom, leaving the Gaara and Hinata in the room alone. Finally, Gadri speaks up. Your name is Hinata, Hyuga? She nods shyly. We are to be engaged. She nods once more. They can make out their father speaking in the background of things far beyond their comprehension. She is still shy, still meek and afraid, but she remembers Naruto's words. Jirad, she pauses. What do you like? Geisha frowns and his eyes bore into her. He isn't particularly sure what he likes. Killing blood. Mother? But that all was a lie. So what does he like? I don't know. Hinata purses her lips. Well, I like learning new things and making friends. At the mention of friends, Gaara perks up. Friends? She blushes at the pressure of his gaze and nods her face. We can be friends. It is said as an ultimatum akin to an order. Okay. What do friends do? They train together. Gaara nods his head. Then let us train. Perhaps, he muses, having friends might be nice. Kakuzu follows the head scientist through the well-lit tunnels. Ever since their successful investments, Root's spaces have been greatly renovated to better meet their needs. Everything was under budget, of course. He would not allow a single road to be wasted. Their 2 footfalls echoed on the chiseled black lava stone, imported from the land of fire. Lanterns were hung on the walls, illuminating the passageway. At the end is a round gate, hewn from limestone and sealed off with blood checks and passcodes, all based on the unique JavaScript system. The head scientist, Thujinkyu, opens the door and enters swiftly, his lab coat swirling behind him. He taps the monitors, activating the equipment slumbering within, and white light bathes the large laboratory. Most of the Ghost members are on break right now, so lobby was closed. Fujin said, Would you like to see our current projects? At Kakuzu's nod, he walks towards a computer placed in the center of the room and activates it. You can come out from the shadows, Puppet Master. Kakuzu turns toward the wall. A soft thump can be heard, and the figure of Sasori Noakuna emerges. Sasori raises a gentle finger, smirking all the time. I got caught. Fujin gives no indication to seeing Sasori's entrance, but pulls up the blueprints for a unique contraption on screen. We've set up 2 mines within the Land of Fire to extract chakra metal. Using Lord Sasori and Lord Danzo's contributions, we were able to create massive drill bores to dig into ground that has been untouched for eons. Kakuzu nods and motions for him to continue. They took some initial investment but have vastly increased our stores of chakra metal, all to be used in manufacturing of the next part of our GX military doctrine. Do the mining puppets perform as intended? Sazuri asked. Yes, we have increased our purchases of explosive seals and manufacturing to keep the mines running day and night. Increase the budget for these mines. I want prospecting across the entire land of fire. Kakuzu could see the future, the sheer amount of power they could have. Understood. And what about the supplies for Project Volt? Sosori questioned. They have all been requestioned, and a separate base is being set up within Konoha for initial testing and deployment. A cruel smile spread across Sosori's lips as he took in the full schematic for his greatest puppet yet. The Susanoo greeted him. To remake the Uchiha's greatest ability would be the perfect monument for his art. Then I shall look forward to seeing it. Kikukuzu frowned, placing his fingers on the table. Are you sure it will be operational? The K1 fighters were one thing, but this... It will work, I assure you. I have ensured it. Sosori drawls, his words filled with pride. Fujin nods his head respectfully. I shall take your word then, Satsori. Kikuzu's eyes narrowed as he flared his chakra. But if you break our contract, I shall ensure that you shall never wander this land alive. Satsori throws his head back and laughs. You can try your best, Kikuzu, but my art has always been special. He can already vision it, piloting the great suit of armor, soaring above the elemental nations. Do not your ambition interfere with business, Sosori. Kakuzu walked forward, strings leaking from his hands as his killing intent roared. You are here out of mutual interest, nothing else. Sosori chuckled, brushing off Kakuzu. Please, I am a loyal member of Roots and will continue to be so. The two titans faced off until Fujin interrupted them. Please, Lord Sosori and Lord Kikuzu, if you wish to fight, do not do so in the lab. There was a quiet silence where only the steady heartbeat of Fujin could be heard. I looked down at the current fight, my face still as steel. As blood spurted and flowed across the ground, I bore witness to the horror of our world. Part of me wondered, how far had I gone? It was something I had not understood, not that I would ever. It was easy enough to put on the mask of Danzo Shimura and move on. Yeah. Project Venom had surpassed my every expectation, especially with regards to the Manjikyo Sharingan. 3 clones raised and trained together, with only themselves to rely on. Their initiation is simple. Kill their best and only friends to awaken the Manjikyo. They then must steal the eyes of their former comrades to gain the eternal Manjikyo Sharingan. All while I subtly manipulated them, the initiation was done in small villages specifically created in the Land of Fire for this purpose. I had learned my mistake with Jin. They would be raised by former Root agents who would die under an attack, prompting each one of my creations launching on a heartless journey through a world of bloody evolution. Every skill would be selectively given to them, either by enemy shinobi using jutsu or scroll drops. It would test their very soul, only for them to be saved by the leaf and become my own agents. We had even turned an island near Wave into the center for this training program, and it had yielded spectacular results. You would be surprised by the sheer human depravity I have seen. In the impoverished villages within the bandit clans are plenty of young children who so easily seek the light of salvation. So easily turned and let to dance within their own fake reality. Maybe all this violence had changed me. But who even am I? My past life was only 20 years, while Danzo Shimura's was nearly 70. I am more of Danzo than me. But what does that mean? I remember Hiruzen's death and my own sorrow. My hand taps against the mahogany desk as I pick up his pipe. He would probably tell me to stop moping and move on. No doubt that monkey died believing I would carry on his will. Anyway, I turned away from the tapes. I had seen enough to know that Rote's forces had grown greatly, and that the next stage of my plans could be placed in motion. With sand on the rise, and papers drafted for a major alliance treaty, I could turn my eyes elsewhere. To finally crush the Akatsuki, I rushed through the katas, letting my mind carry my body, as my eyes shifted towards my Mokuton hand. I surveyed the new brace I had built for it. It was formed of flexible black cloth, wrapped with a red sash. Every single inch of the pasty white skin was concealed, and with a flare of my chakra, the complex seals lit up. I had renovated the arm, installing mechanical supports and hydraulic converters to enable it to strike at a speed and strength unimaginable to most humans. It was firmly reinforced to prevent severing attacks. I had seen what Sasuke was able to achieve. I would have to thank Sasori for this arm later. But now I looked up at Baku. So you have improved. I have. It's hard to tell what he's thinking, especially when he rises into the summon realm or dreamscape. Kikake. but Baku remains aloof, watching me closely. So, how do you view this world? It's different, I suppose. I pause, scarching my chin. It feels almost like a dream. Quite an interesting dream, then. I suppose. And why is it a dream? Can you not feel, smell, and touch? What is so different from this and reality? I paused, pondering the question. It feels like a dream because everything in this world is akin to one. It is one of fantasy, one that shouldn't exist. Of course it was. I had died and had then been transmigrated. Maybe I was in a hospital, maybe this was the afterlife. Then is that not true of your own world? This earth you have told me of? How is that not a dream? How do you know you are dreaming right now? My lips pursed together as I considered that explanation. But the thing was, if it was a dream, how could I even know? I could simply be lucid dreaming, or in a coma. Then why is this world based of a manga created by a human from my world, Baku? Perhaps he had his own dreams, just like you, and decided to do something about them. Then how did I die? How do you explain that? How do you explain being in a world thought to be fiction? How can you differentiate reality and a dream? My voice breaks off. There really was no way to explain it, was there? How did I end up here? And why? How amusing you are. You and Danzo are so similar, yet so different. My anger flared up. What do you mean? You have not changed any of Root's methods. You have continued manipulating countless souls in order to achieve some meaningless peace, all for a threat you don't even know exists. For all your morals and pride on being better, you're the same. I am not the same. I am not a failure. I have achieved more than Danzo from the manga was ever able to achieve, and I haven't even begun. What of your morals? What about the innocent? What was I supposed to do then? Renounce all my sins and destroy all of Root, everything that could change this world for the better. I pause as I raise my hand into the air. There can be no peace without sacrifice, without pain and suffering. Then why do you oppose the infinite Tsukuyomi? What? Why was he changing the subject? Baku chuckled, and the tapir floated down onto the ground. The infinite Tsukuyomi is simply a world crafted of your greatest desires and hopes. I opened my mouth to interject, but he continued on. Tell me, what is so different about your situation? Are you not experiencing your own dream? Your own wildest wish? So, you support such a plan? I asked. And regardless of if this is a dream, I won't let such an illusion be cast. I might be fake, this entire world may be, but then what is the point of casting another illusion? All you do is deny reality, no matter how many layers it is buried under. Baku smiled. At least you have some conviction still, regardless of your methods. But tell me, would the old you approve? Would he... And the thing was, he probably would. I mean, I liked Obito, the guy who killed his own sensei and was a terrorist for 16 years. The same man who Naruto described as the coolest guy. And as long as I remained true to my ideals, I would not collapse into the shadow. I had to ensure that Nigato was right. For there to be peace, there must be a unified enemy. The Fourth Shinobi World War had proven that I will bear all the evil in this world, I said softly. It never hurts to be dramatic. History will remember only the victors. Yeah. So you want to win? Achieve your dream? I nod. I might be a horrible man, but if the generations after me can live in peace, I'll have achieved something. A soft smile formed on my face. This could be all a dream, but I'll still do my best. Very well, then prepare yourself to learn the art of a true sage. I already am prepared, Baka. I was born ready. I smirked slowly. Believe it? Baku's laughter echoes through the room. What was it you said? It is not the truth of an ideal, but the strength to enforce it. He chuckles. I shall look forward to your continued journey. Winter has finally arrived. Its sparkling snow and sheets of ice dancing over Konoha, the lingering feeling of sorrow, reflected within the mirrors that line the roads and village, only heartened by the end of the year. It's a bittersweet one, perhaps, or a triumphant one, but everyone has had their own share of sorrow. At least, that's what Jiraiya thinks. It's all too easy to dream, to let those dreams grow and grow until they swallow your whole world with failure. And visiting the grave of Hiruzen Tsurutobi only magnifies that bitter regret. It worms up his spine, crawling into the back of his throat, where it grows, weighing his tongue with fond recollections and fears of a torpid future. The cold never bothered him, but every time he gazes at the massive marble monument, he wonders what Sarutobi-sensei would think. Hirozen was never a man of luxuries or elegance, but one of simplicities and kindness. Better to be remembered in the hearts of those he served than in the cold marble of statues, he would say. But Danzo continued onwards, glorifying the third Hokage to the level of a god. A god of Shinobi, they call him. He exhales, the white mist waving in the morning mist. His own actions are trifling actions in the presence of the Hokage. What has he made? But countless failures. Nagato, dead. Minato, dead. He is the only remainder of the Seindei Tsunade is long gone, and Orochimaru is dead, sealed within the belly of the Shingami. All that is left is the Council of Elders, with Danzo at the head. His footfalls crunch into the snow. As he walks away, his Yurin had made his choice. Who was Jiraiya to disrespect that? So his head lifts slowly, looking at the pitter-patter of the snowflakes. He touches one, the snowflake melting in the gentle warmth of his outstretched hand. The little droplets left behind roll down his calluses and flow like a river over the line of life. That is if you can even call it a line, for all its bends and curves. No, it's more akin to a road, and as much he wants to wash it away, he can't. This is what he remembers as he surveys the emergency council convened to elect a new Hokage. Lord Jiraiya, Kakashi nods his head at him, and Jiraiya returns his greeting. Their conversation is cut short by Danzo, who clears his throat to gather everyone's attention. He isn't fooling anyone. With the Sandame's passing, a new Hokage must be chosen. As such, this council has been convened. There is a pause to let the message sink in. Does anyone wish to nominate a candidate? Well, there's no time better than the present. Why don't you start, Danzo? Jiraiya challenges. If that is what you wish, Danzo replies, I nominate Hatake Kakashi to the title of Godeme Hokage. What? Jiro's eyes flicker towards Kakashi. The silence continues, until Mado Guy cries out, I support Kakashi. Standing up, the green beast of Konoha and Turtle Sage lowers his voice, as admiration leaks into his voice. It's something Jiraiya recognizes. All too easily, he had spoken the same way to Orochimaru once, a long time ago. Yakuza's voice is solemn and quiet in tone. To become Hokage is no easy task. If you had asked me 10 years ago if Kakashi would have become the Hokage, I would have said no. His eyes are closed, and his hands shake. It had always been Obito who had wanted to reach the hat. Not Kakashi, but when Obito passed, Kakashi had inherited his eye, his dream, and his wishes. Kakashi's murmurs softly, Guy, but Guy continues on. To blaze forward and carve a new era of the leaf shining with the vigor of eternal youth. To create a new spring tide for us all. His gaze turns up, eyes hard and unflinching. That is what I believe Kakashi will do. That is what I believe my friend will do. Jiraiya can't believe it. Emotion allowed by Danzo within the Shinobi Council. It's worth mentioning the members of said council, Guy, Kakashi, Danzo, Fugaku, Shikaku, Hisashi, and himself. At least the Sandaime had been somewhat balanced in assigning the seats, but if Kakashi becomes Danzo's puppet, there's no telling what might happen. Kakashi was the best choice for the seat. Neutral to most of the major clans, student of the Yadaime, and a man with an honest heart. Who else would be such a pick? Jiraiya frowns at the realization. The only other shinobi like that would be himself. And he is nowhere ready for that responsibility. 2. Danzo smiles. It's not a nice smile, but rather a smug one. His lips are out of line slightly, and the creases etched into his face harden with his mouth. Well spoken, Gakken, but I too shall offer my own reasoning. Kakashi-kun is the student of the Yondaime and possesses the might of a Kage. But most importantly, he understands the true meaning of the will of the fire and what it means to be a shinobi. Nostalgia blooms over Danzo's face as he recalls the images of the Hokages of the past, and Jiraiya realizes that this man had lived to see both the first and second in their prime and fought alongside the third his entire life. If there's one man more qualified to point out qualities of a Kage, it would be Danzo, not that Jiraiya will admit it. The third was given the position at the young age of 16, and grew into the role just like Kakashi no doubt will. He chuckles, and his singular eye turns toward Jiraiya. We all shall guide him, and the leaf into the new era. One ruled by the young and free, not us old, decrepit men. He waves his hand, as if making a joke. Shogaku chimes in. I support Hatake, Kakashi, as the fifth Hokage. He has been nothing but helpful and supportive in teaching my own son, Itachi. How long has Jiraiya been away from the village? How many are under Danzo's thrall? He was no doubt sickened by what Orochimaru had done, but the whole need for invasion had clearly been drummed up by the Warhawk. Sensei's cryptic comments regarding the Hyuga affair only inflamed those suspicions, but there was nothing he could say, not yet at least. Shikaku appeared conflicted as well, frowning at the proceedings. That meant Jiraiya could have both the Nara and Yamanaka vote, which left it equal between his and Danzo's faction, Fugaku, Kakashi, and Danzo, but he could also use Kakashi's disinterest as a tool if needed. He would not let Konoha become like Kiri or the other shinobi villages, rapidly militarizing and in constant strife. For the time being, the deciding vote lay with Hisashi Hyuga, whose family was at the center of this entire mess. How poetic, Jiraiya mused. With Hisashi as head ambassador in Suna, Hisashi had taken up his seat until the reforms in new council system could be finalized with a new fire shadow. If Hisashi had a preference, he didn't show it. He opened his lips, calm and collected. I say this not as Hisashi Hyuga, but as Hisashi of the Leaf. It has become clear that there are two sides at play, two that shall decide this crucial moment in the history of the Leaf. The tension in the room is palpable, and Jiraiya is starting to consider it. I've heard the reputation of Lord Shimura, of the Shadow of the Shinobi, and what that entails for his endorsement. It is clear that my colleagues, Lord Nara, Yamanaka, and Lord Jiraiya, do not share this view, and that my own vote will be the deciding one. But at the end, I must support Kakashi Hatake, for there is no other candidate that can fit our station, except Lord Jiraiya himself. We require a Hokage to steer the Leaf into a new age, to modernize and grow, and for all his might, Lord Jiraiya is not a leader. He himself has run from authority at every moment it has been offered. Jiraiya sighed. This battle was over. The moment his track record was mentioned. The best he can do now is guide Kakashi on the right path. That is my final decision. But I ask those that oppose me to not let their voices be cast to the shadows of their hearts and lay in resentment, but to speak to guide us forward. A house divided cannot stand, and it will take all the branches of the great tree to shelter us all. Eloquent, concise, and driven by both logic and emotion, Hisashi Hyuga's words echo across the meeting hall. His forehead is visible to all, clear of any brand. Shikaku exhales before nodding. How troublesome, but you're right. I guess you're our fifth Hokage then. Kakashi. Inuichi follows his teammate's lead with a pleasant smile. My mind has been made for me, it appears, and all eyes turn towards Kakashi, who till now has remained silent. He rises and gazes at the assembled council. Thank you, he places a hand over his heart. I won't let you down. The rest of them will no doubt meet Kakashi in private to discuss their own concerns. Jiraiya chuckles. Minato would have been proud of you, kid. Trust me. And when Kakashi beams back at him, Jiraiya smiles back. There's still hope for his own dream. A world of peace. His nomination is approved by the daimyo the next day. Konoha's Gaiden Hokage will be Kakashi Hatake. Butterflies take flight. A mask is something fake. A persona projected outwards to hide one's true self. But if you wear one long enough, what is real and what is fake? Yin sheathed the white tanto, its light fading as the telltale crackle of his chakra pitters out. The pristine white of his Inu mask gleams in the morning light. He adjusts his hand and stretches slowly, heartbeat falling. It's dark, with the first slivers of the sun only now leaping into the sky from the pits of the underwood, the trees bending and dancing around him. It looks like a celebration, he thinks, before snapping out of his daze. Even after all this time, he still has a child's imagination. Maybe he hasn't fully grown up yet. His gaze shifts toward the corpses lying on the ground. Cause of deaths. Multiple lacerations, bone fractures, and nerve damage. Already, he could see the vultures circling, eager to get their own share of the prize. The targets Suzuku Kai, head of the Land of Fire's finance department, and secret mobster. It was almost pathetic how much the man had shifted to relying on Kakatsu and Root's underground finances to fund his life of luxury and embezzle the taxes from the country. As Jin steps away, he looks at his hands. Hands that, for once, had acted for justice, for good. It was a rush, like something had clicked within his head. Killing wasn't just meaningless. It could mean something. He had seen how many people hid behind masks of righteousness and kindness. Suzuka was just one that had been caught. His blood boiled and his hands were already moving before he noticed. It wasn't like anyone would miss this trash. Elder was right. Ideals only had value based on who wielded them. Just another reminder of the world he inhabited and the corruption it was oozed in. A day later, within the walls of Konoha, that feeling hadn't changed. He had reported to Danzo, and they had exchanged some words over the death of the Sandia. Lord Danzo. The floor was newly repaved, and Jin could see the visible improvements within the facilities. Jin, Danzo replies before sighing. I trust you have accomplished your mission. Suzuku Kai is dead. His corruption shall no longer stain the land of fire. Good. A slight incline of his head in acknowledgement. You are dismissed. Then, with the death of the Sandaime, there are many internal matters to attend to. I see. Jin pauses, and Danzo notices. He chuckles softly. Is there something you needed, Jin? Jin's eyes twitch, and his hands clench. Why? Why do people stoop so low? What drives them to do such things? That's a difficult topic. Elder says, there's a tinge of sadness in his voice. But this world isn't perfect. It's far from it. Suzuku Kai was just one of those fakes who was caught. It's just the reality of our world. But why? The longer you live, the more you learn that life isn't all sunshine and roses. It's harsh, cruel, and won't hesitate to beat you down if you let it. But the more important question is this. What is right or wrong? Jin fumbles at that question. It's hard to explain. Some will tell you what is right. Some will tell you that the same action is wrong. For each choice you make, there will be someone unsatisfied. At the same time, the most gruesome actions will no doubt have at least one supporter. So, everything I've done is worthless? Elder raises one eyebrow. It all matters what you think, not the world. So, ask yourself, do you think you are right? I do. It was obvious. Then all you must do is convince the rest of the world that you are right through your words and actions. Elder replies. Jin frowns. Would the world be all right with such violence to achieve their goal, or a free and prosperous nation? He felt a hand on his shoulder and looked up at Elder's kind smile. You truly are a peaceful child. He muses, and his grip tightens. Do not carry such sadness and resentment within your heart. When there is a hole, it must be filled. Elder performs a small Suden jutsu, and the water drips out of his hand. The river falls for what seems like an eternity, and Jin can't help himself. Filling the hole won't fix anything. It won't change the fact that the water keeps flowing. It only fixes the symptoms, not the cause. That's where you're wrong, Jin. A moment of silence falls between them, because the source of all this wrongness you detest is simply humanity. Elder's face is calm, his hands still, and not twists in Jin's stomach. To be imperfect is to be human. To be greedy is human. All these sins are the result of our pursuit of happiness. What is joy when you have never felt misery? Sadness is simply the absence of happiness. Those were Elder's words to him so long ago, but now they bite, they burn, they break. They're true, but Jin can't accept it. More than now, the mask of Jin slips back in place. For all his skill and experience, he is still a child haunted by ghosts beyond his reach. He can act the role of a heartless assassin all he wants, but can't deny the somber boy behind the porcelain mask. His tongue is tied. We can preach, we can speak in lofty words about the greatness of man. We can deny our true nature, but all that achieves is ruin. Be honest, Jin. Be honest with yourself. How much senseless death must this world need before things change? Before we can finally move on? Do you think ideals can solve that, or can strength? Jin cranes his head up. Strength, he replies softly, after a long pause. Strength is the only way to create a government. A world that follows your ambition. He looks back at Elder, who has sat down in his chair. Is it possible? He has to know whether what they're fighting for is real, that it's not a lie. He lets a trickle of hope creep into his voice. And Elder reclines back, pondering over Jin's question. It is, he finally says. I've seen it. And although it's far from perfect, it's something worth fighting for. What's it called? It sounds like a fairy tale. Earth. Elder finally says, there was always war, but things were changing. We were moving forward to a better future. Jin wonders where this world is, and what happened to it. What happened to it? I saw it in a vision, as it was our destiny. Elder replies, of what our world could have been. Realization dawns within Jin's heart. You mean, we can achieve it, he finally says. And that's why I won't give up. A weight seems to lift off Elder's shoulders and his posture straightens. Jin is quiet at the revelation, but a part of him smiles in victory. Their dream is possible. I wonder, Jin. Elder interrupts his thoughts. Would you like to hear a story? Okay, but it has to be about Earth. So curious? You don't distrust me? Elder questions. You were the closest thing to a father I had. You wouldn't lie to me and to tell me the truth. Jin closes his eyes. It took courage. Words somehow tumble from his throat. I don't mean any offense, of course. He blushes a little and scratches his neck. And Elder laughs, a long, real laugh. You don't need to worry, Jin. I do not kill just for the pleasure, for the killing. I do it to create a better world. For peace. For peace, Jin echoes, eyes wide. And when Elder tells him a story, he recalls the empty room he was born in. Kakashi, Tenzo, Guy, Naruto, Elder, Danzo. Only it isn't so lonely now. Shiro loved his family. It was an idealistic life, one filled with plenty and loveliness. The millet of Kagura was a peaceful seaside town inhabited by farmers and merchants. It was completely ordinary, untouched from the conflicts of Shinobi, who only remained in the children's fantasies and their parents' stories. They were able to eke out a happy, peaceful life. Until that fateful day, he has replayed it countless times in his head. His whole soul and being so fixated on that one moment that turned his world upside down. It had been a cool, calm August day, and Shiro had decided to play in the fields with Takahashi. His elder brother, "Come on, Nisan," he called, his feet rushing through the grass and moist dirt. Takahashi lagged behind, chuckling at his enthusiasm. "Wait for me, Shiro," he replied. This clearing was where they could play ninja, samurai, or any other fantasy that took their fancy. Shiro giggled as he leaned down on the ground, searching for earthworms. He lifted one into the air, letting it dangle between his fingers. "Here, Takahashi." He throws it at his older brother, who shrieks, leaping it out of the way. "Hey," Takahashi growls, brushing mud off his pants. "You know how I am about bugs, Shiro." "Sorry," Shiro mutters, struggling to muffle his giggles, much to his brother's annoyance. "Whatever." "Hey," I said sorry. Shiro huffs, crossing his arms. The two face off, eyes all right with rightful fury. 1 second, 2 seconds. The silence continues until Shiro begins to laugh and Takahashi follows suit. "Next time, don't pull such a stunt, little brother." Shiro sticks out his tongue in response, only for Takahashi to continue on. "Or I'll teach you a lesson that you'll never forget." Yeah. Shiro knows his older brother. "We'll see, Nisan." A long groan is his response. As Shiro turns his head, he can make out Takahashi's ink-black hair a few feet away. Both of them had inherited it from their father. "Look!" Takahashi calls, pointing to something far in the distance. "What is it?" "It looks like a house," Takashi replies, and Shiro's eyes widen. "A house that means something new. Do you think we should explore?" he pleads. "I don't know." "Come on," Shiro says, voice filled with excitement. Who knows what lies in that house in the distance? Where did it come from? Who lives there? Takahashi is uncertain. Their mother told them to come back in time for lunch, or in another hour or two. He bites his lip and considers Shiro's proposal. He knows the dangers of the wild. Just because they haven't been hurt yet doesn't mean they won't be, but looking at his brother only makes his stomach feel heavier. "All right," he says, relenting to Shiro's pleas. "But we better hurry there. No dilly-dallying." Shiro is far too cheerful and dashes ahead, much to Takahashi's chagrin. He would like to keep Shiro safe. "Thank you very much." As the property comes into motion, Takahashi is taken aback how derelict it is. The door is hanging ajar at an angle, and the windows are all shattered. He takes it in and raises a hand to block Shiro from moving forward. "Shiro," he whispers, "we should go. This place looks creepy." Shiro takes one last look at the dilapidated building, before nodding slowly as both boys turn away. Takahashi moves to leave, but a sudden fear freezes him in place. His heart pumps widely, and his eyes dilate. He spins around and gasps in shock. A tall man, wearing a headband, stands in front of him. A nasty sneer is plastered on his face. Shinobi Takahashi thinks, well, well, well. The man taunts, arm keeping a hold of Shiro. Two little Uchiha, running in the woods, and so far away from Konoha. It must be my lucky day. He leers at both of them. Don't even think of moving, Brett. The kunai appears in his hand, and Takahashi is shocked by the grace of its movements. Everything is moving in slow motion, and the blood rushes to his head. Act. A voice whispers in his head. Maybe it's the adrenaline, the palpable fear in the back of his throat. But Takahashi considers it. Their day had taken a completely different turn. What did the man mean by Konoha? Uchiha. Nansan. Shiro croaks, and tears began to fall down his face. What can he do now? What kind of older brother is he? Wait, the man referred to them as Uchiha and Lucky, meaning their lives were valuable. He could do it. He raises his hands into the air, keeping his eyes fixated on the enemy. It's all right, Shiro. You'll be safe. His throat fills with acid, and he walks forward. Hee, safe? You got another thing coming, kid. The man chuckles. But tell you what, there's probably more of you. So lead me to Mom and Dad, and maybe I'll spare you. He releases Shiro, and the boy tumbles forward, rushing into the embrace of Takahashi. Snot runs down his face, and Takahashi turns away from the tears. Well, we live in a village that way. Shinobi-san. Takahashi points towards the coast, where Sakuzu is located. When the man's eyes turn, he lunges, throwing Shiro out of the way. His feet skid on the gravel, flowing through movements he suddenly remembers. Forearm up, leg forward, dive down. Twist your spine to the side. He grabs the ninja's hand and pulls, relishing the look of surprise adorning the man's face. He doesn't have the strength necessary to knock the man out, so he instead trips him, pulling a kunai free from his belt. Within seconds, he had taken the man's life with a swift slash to the neck. Blood stains the ground, drips on his hands, and covers his face. He shakes slowly, his eyes widening and dilating as he grabs the floor, searching for any sanity left within his skull. He touches his face. His hand is wet. Non-Antri-san. His head whips around, and his eyes bore into Shiro, who only recoils in fear. He's afraid, and Takahashi wants to take him in his arms and tell Shiro it'll be okay. They'll go home and mother and father will give them hugs. He wants to tell him that nothing has changed, but there's a distance between them now. Shiro can never look at Takahashi the same now, and it tears Takahashi's heart to shreds. He deserved it, he says, ignoring the fear on Shiro's face. We survived, Shiro, and that's all that matters. If there's a flint in his voice, a hint of uncertainty, he hasn't noticed it. Part of him wonders why he doesn't care about that. He takes one more look at the fresh corpse, and back at his hand. The red droplets drip into the grass, and he finally throws the kunai onto the ground. He'd been holding on to it the entire time. Let's go, he orders Shiro, who scurries to keep up with him. Takahashi just wants a breath of fresh air. Time to think about what happened. When the damned house is finally out of view, he promptly vomits. He crumples into the grass, gasping for air. The calm he had projected disappears. Takahashi. Who is that? Who is calling him? What? Nai-san. There's a hand on his shoulder, somewhere in the back of his head. Takahashi wonders what is happening. He can see another building. A sign. Keiko no-op. Nai-san. The voice is pleading now, filled with desperation. Groggily, Takahashi reaches for it. Two eyes, onyx black, are peering at him. They are filled with concern, and he takes notice of the wetness under them. I'm okay, he whispers through clenched teeth, and slowly takes in his surroundings. I'm okay, Shiro? Okay, Nisan. Shiro whispers back, and Takahashi pauses for a second to process what had just happened. Can we go home? Takahashi sighs and leans back into the embrace of the earth. He still can't forget the image of the man he had killed, of the way the light in his eyes disappeared. Shiro tugs at his sleeve once more, and Takahashi whips around to look at his little brother once more. We'll go after a few minutes, he replies, pushing Shiro's arm away. Okay, Shiro says, turning away and sitting next to Takahashi. They can feel a warm breeze brush against them, and the sun seems to shine even brighter. The light spins faster and faster, bending and breaking, before Shiro finally snaps out of his reverie. A gasp of air escapes his lungs as he jumps up, sword in hand. Wooden sandstone walls meet his uncertain gaze, and he quietly checks for a genjutsu. When his chakra pulse meets nothing, he finally relaxes again in his bed once more. "Takahashi," he whispers to the silence, voice filled with longing. Ever since then, Takahashi had led them forward, guided them from hell to hell. He had protected Shiro with his life, but Takahashi is long gone, body turned to ash. And Shiro is all that remains. "Talk to me," he calls, and can feel a hand on his shoulder. Turning back, he can see Takahashi's kind smile. Can't his ghost just leave him alone? Nonetheless, he indulges this fantasy of his. His brother relaxes on the wall and faces him. "You know this is fake, right?" Shiro knows, but he can't help himself, like an addict, unable to stop himself from the next dopamine boost. Takahashi frowns and walks in front of him. "Let go, Shiro." Shiro hates that smile of his, the way he acts so happy when the two of them will never meet again, but he doesn't say anything. "You and I are already linked forever." Shiro's eyes itch, the eternal Meigyo, Sharingan, forming as he takes in his brother's form. Memorizing it, the lines chiseled into his face by a stolen childhood. His gaunt frame from a life of starving himself to feed his younger brother. "I can call you back." Shiro leans in, and the desperation on his face makes Takahashi cringe. Danzo had shown him the scroll, the secrets of the Edo Tensei. Everything he ever wanted, the life he deserved, is at his touch. Time and time again, he has asked Takahashi, or at least his mind's fabrication, and each time he gets the same answer. "It won't change anything." Takahashi says, the lingering feeling of his fingers brushing through Shiro's hair. "I made my choice." His voice is tender, and Shiro closes his eyes. It makes the end all the less painful. Takahashi chuckles. "We can't deny the balance of the world, Shiro. We can't change the past. All we can do is keep moving forward, and you know that." And when Shiro opens his eyes, the room is empty once more. He exhales softly and looks at where Takahashi once stood. "Me-san, I guess I'll try it your way one more time." Either way, he should probably check in with Yaxley. And bring some food, no doubt. Idly, Shiro wonders how Kaito and Shisui are doing. He makes a note to bring some souvenirs for them. Kaito especially. Anko sighed one last time, before finally pushing open the door and stepping into the Hokage's office. Only there was no Hokage. The council was still deliberating, and according to Jin, they had selected a successor to the seat. For the time being, it was kept by Danzo Shimura, who had taken charge of the village after the Sandame's death. "Lord Shimura," she bowed politely. He did not wear the hat or robes of the Kage, but sat behind the desk. The implications were clear. He was the one in charge. "Anko," he nods in acknowledgement and motions towards a chair. "I must admit, you have surpassed my expectations." There's a hint of sarcasm in his voice as he smiles at her, and Anko can't help but shiver slightly. "I am happy to serve the Hidden Leaf." While she would usually have made a crass comment. "This isn't the Sandame, kind and gentle. It is Danzo, and for all the kindness he showed her, there's a certain level of respect that must be paid." "Good, good. It is nice to see such enthusiasm from the young." He lifts a paper and studies it. "I'm sure you are aware of what has happened to the Sandaime, and the changes a new Kage will bring." "I am." "Then I expect you to play a key role in this transition. Further details will be provided later on a need-to-know basis." Danzo smirks and leans back in his chair. "I understand, sir." She swallows slowly and nods. "Is that all?" "Just one word." He smiles at her. And for a second, Anko is shocked at the gentleness within his expression. "It's almost like a grandfather," she muses. He holds out an envelope. "Thanks to your department, the war was a major success. Consider that a reward for your gallantry." She takes it gingerly and nods back. "Thank you." The next second she left the office, closing the door behind her and exhaling. Gods, that was intense. She pities Kakashi even more now if he had to deal with that every day. "Are you all right?" She turns and sighs at Jin's familiar wolf mask. "At least he's on guard duty today." "Yes," Anko snorts, holding up the envelope. "Even got a prize. Thank you very much." She can't tell if he's smiling behind that mask, but he seems to visibly brighten. "That's good," Jin Shag comments. He leans forward and hesitates slightly. Could we talk about something? In private. Anko's eyes widen before a smirk appears on her face. Did he finally get the courage? Oh, she winks at Jin before slinging an arm on his shoulder. So you finally got the guts, huh? What do you mean? The mask shifts slightly to the side, almost like a dog. Anko has to hide her smile from how adorable it looks. Jin's an elite ANBO, after all, the furthest from cute you can get. Oh, we'll see. She smiles mischievously and saunters out of the Hokage building before disappearing into a swirl of leaves. Landing in an empty field some distance away, she turns around to see Jin standing behind her. His fingers climbed up the porcelain covering, unbuckling the straps as he pulled the Inyu mask off his face. His spiky white hair fanned into the morning breeze and his blazing blue eyes met her own. Well, he certainly was a man on a mission. Anko grinned. That entrance was perfect. She wondered who he had asked for tips, but he had nailed everything so far. He turned his face to look back at her, gaze gentle, eyes softening. The creases on his face smoothed out as he smiled, light emanating from the expression. But she couldn't help but wonder why he looked so sad. She could see it in his eyes, a sense of desperation eating him from the inside. Anko, he paused, looking away from her. She took a step towards him, brow furrowing. I wanted to tell you something. Jane inhaled, swallowing nervously. I wanted to ask you. Anko sighs at his hesitation and can't help but smile. I wanted to ask you if you would go on a date with me, he finally blurts out, and Anko can see the desperation shining in his eyes once more. He really looks like a dog waiting for a treat, Anko muses. She lets the suspense build before poking him in the face. I've been waiting for quite a while, Jen. My answer is yes. Anko slaps him on the back, watching him slowly deflate as all his anxiety flows out. Call me. It took you ages. He smiles sheepishly before scratching his neck. I didn't really mean it. I was busy, I guess. So was I. Jen? She chuckles before turning to him. Well, where are we going? You don't want to keep me waiting. I booked a restaurant for us this evening. I'll pick you up, Jin replies, filled with a sense of confidence. Anko snickers at how robotic he sounds. Not that she would have it any other way. I'll look forward to it, Anko smirks, her eyes curving upwards. But what made you ask, Jin? There surely must be something. Jin blushed at the nickname that was a win and turned away. I guess I got a new perspective, he mumbled. So you finally noticed, Anko teased before patting him on the back. Don't worry about it. I'm sure you wouldn't have waited till we both were old farts before confessing. Anko. Yes. A soft sigh was Jang's response. Why don't we take a walk and talk? I'm fine with that, if you're still scared. I'm sure Big Bad A and Bu like you have a hard time talking about emotions, like your Nissan. I don't have any issue with my emotions. Hey! Anko took his hand and squeezed it. You don't need to lie, Jin. Lie about what? About whom you are. She looked straight into his eyes. Anko knew best what it meant to have your identity stripped away, forced into a mold you didn't have. Kakashi never had a younger brother, and I've known him since he was a child. Anko, Jane stuttered, shock coloring his face. I don't know what Orochimaru did to you, or what kind of life you had. His involvement with Rochim and how he had been deployed with the Sandier to finally catch Orochimaru. She knew how obsessed the snake Sanyen was with blood limits in his mad pursuit of power, but it doesn't matter to me. I don't know, she interrupted him, placing a finger on his lips. Don't ever make excuses for who you are. You can't change it. She could feel the lingering remnant of the seal she had branded with, now nothing but a distant memory. Jang looked back at her, conflict written on his face. Her own hand reached out and lifted up his chin. Jin smiled at her. Hopefully these will help. I'm alright. It's just a scratch. His childish dream. I just want a world where no one has to cry. Hey, it's not impossible. I'll prove it. I guess I'm still a kid then. Jang-sin's eyes open, and he takes in Anko's gentle smile and the feel of her hand touching his cheeks. He always knew he was never Kakashi's brother, regardless of what Elder told him, but Kakashi had accepted him and cared for him like one. He won't be defined by what blood flows through his veins. He'll make his own story, his own legacy, one as beautiful as the White Fangs. Just like Anko will go on to become one of Konoha's finest shinobi. And if they can do it together, well, the past is history. Tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. And under the dancing snow of winter's calling, the two share a precious moment. For Jin knows what he wants, and his determination is clear. It doesn't matter if it's impossible, it's still something worth fighting for. The Sandaime had died for that. Hashirama Senju, all the Hokage had died for that dream. And if he is able to achieve even a fraction of their glorious deeds, he'll be satisfied. He won't be alone either. Anko gazes back at Jin as their foreheads press against each other. She had always been defined by Orochimaru, never able to run from the traitor's shadow, until Danzo, until Jin. And if she can find her own share of happiness, she'll fight to protect it. Kakashi's eyes gaze upwards at the memorial stone. The war is over, ending with success. Orochimaru is dead, his schemes failing under the might of Konoha. There are 0 casualties, except the Sandaime Hokage. But it only feels right to visit, and tell Obito to tell Rin and Minato sensei of how their world has changed. He doesn't come here as frequently, not when he has friends and family who are still living. There's no point in talking to the dead when the living are waiting for you. So you are still here, Hatake. Danzo emerges from the shadows and stands next to Kakashi. In the distance, Kakashi can make out the Third's mausoleum. My Danzo-sensei, he smiles at the older man. I thought I might as well pay my respects. The two stands in silence for a while, and Kakashi can't help but wonder at the déjà vu he feels. It is odd, is it not? We met here while you were mourning the loss of the fourth, and now we meet again at the death of the third. It truly is strange, Kakashi comments. The seat of the Hokage is empty. Kakashi doesn't respond. You would make a good Kage, Kakashi. Would I? Danzo exhales. Do you know how Hiruzen Sarutobi became the third? He's vaguely familiar with the story. The Kinkaku squad had attacked the second's escort group, and Tsuburama Senju had sacrificed his life to save his students, naming Hiruzen Sarutobi the Sandaime Hokage. The second gave his life to protect his students and passed the mantle of Hokage to the third. Danzo doesn't react. That's what they teach in the textbooks, yes. But when the second told us his plan, Hiruzen, he offered to sacrifice his life instead. He did what even I could not bring myself to do. Kakashi's eyes widen. I believe you have your own saying, yes. Those who abandon the mission are trash, but those who abandon their comrades are even worse than trash. That's... Your teammate wished to become the Hokage when he gave that Sharingan eye to you, Danzo comments, his head turning towards Obito's name. He did. You just want me to become Hokage, don't you, Danzo? Why don't you take the position yourself? Danzo sighs, and his voice fills with a sense of regret and sorrow. I didn't deserve it back then, and I don't deserve it now. I am old, Kakashi, and I will die age within a few years. The leaf doesn't need another elder. It needs someone young, like the Yondaime, like Minato-sensei. I'm not fit for such a post. He has to be many ghosts, too many regrets. It wasn't even his dream. Obito would wish for you to become Hokage, to carry on his wishes. Would he? Kakashi? Danzo raises his hand into the air. I shall be frank with you. I could give the position of Garume to anyone, and they would be accepted. That is the power I wield over Konoha. Power that should rest in the hands of the Kage. Silence returns between them. Kakashi thinks of what his friends, his comrades, would say, but the only thing he can remember is Jin's face. All it takes for evil to grow is for good men to do nothing. The Sandaime had let Orochimaru continue his experiments and desecrate the legacy of the Shodai, Minato-sensei, and his father. He had let Naruto grow up in neglect, subject to the village's hate. The Sandaime was a good man and someone who had given his life for the village. But somewhere, Kakashi knew that he was tired of his job, tired of the burden. He wouldn't have lost to Orochimaru one-on-one. Kakashi knows this. I'm going to become the Hokage one day, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi can change everything. He can make sure Naruto grows up happy and safe in a village that treats him equally. He can make the world Obito dreamed of. But most importantly, he can carry on Minato-sensei's dream. He chuckles softly. I guess my mind is made up, then. Danzo smirks. You have grown since the time we met here, Kakashi. Are you finally going to tell me who is behind the Kyuubi attack? Kakashi's eye morphs into an upside-down U as he faces Danzo. A roaring laugh is his response. When you are the fifth, you can order me all you like. Consider it one final bargaining chip. Matsude? Kakashi smiles. It's nice to know you haven't changed, sensei. Who would you want as your personal guard? Danzo asks. So impatient, Kakashi hums, meaning a thinking position. I don't know. You aren't the Hokage yet. One final bargaining chip, right? Kakashi pushes his hands into his pockets. Danzo pauses before giving Kakashi an amused smirk. You learn quickly, don't you? Yonshin at 12, Hokage at 20. Not so bad if you think about it. And all Danzo can do is chuckle at Kakashi's enthusiasm. The future is bright, Kakashi thinks. He should probably tell Guy, but on second thought, no. Best to keep it a surprise. He can only imagine Obito's face right now, watching from the Pure Lands. Kakashi looked wistfully out the window from within the Hokage's office, the red-white hat perched securely over his gray hair. He had chosen to wear the traditional robes of his new post, Hadri, and full kimono at Danzo's insistence. The kanji for Godeme Hokage were emblazoned on the back, in ornate red lettering. He had only been inaugurated 2 days ago, much to the shock of his friends. Jinny had been positively floored, and Anko had simply laughed at him. Were the two finally dating? Genye had expressed his excitement, as Kakashi had already informed him at the council meeting. Tenzo was simply ready to serve the tree and eager for what the future held. Everyone was eager for the future, it seemed. He had been surprised by the sheer scale of the inauguration, with Danzo organizing a lavish party, complete with entertainment and gifts for the entirety of Konoha. Kakashi just hoped he could live up to the expectations. So, are you finally going to tell me? Of course, Danzo drawled, and Kakashi placed his hands on the wooden table in apprehension. Much of his first day was spent with Danzo teaching him how to Hokage 101, which Kakashi found agonizingly stressful. There was a mammoth heap of issues left behind by the Sandai, new projects, promotions, budgeting issues that all needed the seal of the Hokage. No wonder Hiruzen was so distraught at the loss of Minato-sensei. The Yondaime Hokage and his wife were attacked by a masked man calling himself Madara Uchiha. Madara, what form of imposter were they dealing with? Madara Uchiha had been dead for years, ever since his fatal duel with the Shodai in the Valley of the End. Could he be an impersonator? Kakashi mused, raising one hand to his chin in thought. Shimura nodded slowly. We do not know the full scale of Madara's powers. Perhaps he created some kind of successor or clone of his own. But one thing is important. The intruder had the Sharingan. Kakashi's eyes widened. He had heard stories of how the ghost of the Uchiha had been able to control the Kyuubi with his Sharingan. Of course, that means this Madara, fake or not, is a real threat. Correct? A tired sigh escaped Kakashi's lips. He hasn't acted in the years of the attack, though, but was clearly after the Biju. That means he is either planning or dead. Danzo smirked at Kakashi's final word. I doubt a man who hold his own against the Yondaime Hokage is dead. Kakashi. It's best to consider all the possibilities. Kakashi responded, Wait, remember the rumors of a new group called the Akatsuki? The mercenary group of missing nin, replied Danzo, leaning forward. Yeah, the connections were all coming together. Akatsuki only became active in the years following the Kyuubi attack, and someone must be directing a group of S-rank missing nin. There's no way they would even work together otherwise. Well done, Danzo's clapping filled the room, and Kakashi chuckled softly. But the puzzle isn't over yet. What is Madara's goal? That's simple. He wanted the Nine Tails, but failed. He clearly hates Konoha, or all the Shinobi villages. He's gathering a group of powerful minions. But for what? Kakashi's fist clenched together. He wants to collect all the Biju, no doubt about it, for some nefarious reason. Danzo's lip curved upwards, and Kakashi smirked. You knew the answer the entire time, didn't you? I can't say I did, but you are still a genius, Kakashi. No need to sell yourself short. Kakashi stood up and walked towards the window. There's something else. Kakashi finally said, the issue over the Sharingan. He didn't get a response, but Danzo simply waited for his answer. This Madara must be an Uchiha. Are you sure? After all, you too are able to use the Dajutsu. Kakashi slammed his hands on the table. Call it a hunch, but I don't see anyone who gets their hands on a Sharingan calling themselves Madara Uchiha willingly. It's almost like the real Madara created some form of successor, or found a way to immortality. The thought was terrifying. Could Konoha stand up to the power of one its own founders? Hashirama Senju himself had been the only one able to stand up to Madara's immense strength, and he was the god of Shinobi, a title Kakashi knew he himself didn't possess. Then we best be prepared, and also monitor the Akatsuki. Kakashi was loath to admit it, but Naruto was a target now. We'll also have to get Naruto started on his training. So, you finally are ready to train the Jinchuriki? Danzo's lips tugged upwards, and an expression of greed flashing over his face. No, Kakashi responded, firmly. He let his chakra flare just a little to let Danzo know not to touch Naruto. I will ask Jiraiya to begin the training and place Naruto for early graduation. Danzo didn't choose to respond, instead asking a question. The academy will need some changes as well. Get a new curriculum drafted, and on my desk, I'll look over it then. A loud laugh was his response. You truly are the Hokage. Very well then, I shall abide by your wishes, Lord Hokage. I'm not going easy on you because you were my teacher. Yes, you are not Hiruzen at the very least. Danzo rose, a smile on his face. Good luck, Kakashi. While we have our differences, I am eager to see where you will go. Kakashi's eye curls upward. It's nice to know you care, Sensei. I am not some emotionless machine to be incapable of understanding feelings. With that, he disappears in a swirl of leaves. You didn't need to antagonize Elder so much. Kakashi ni. Jin emerges from the shadows, hound mask firmly secured over his face. Makashi waves his hand in the air, ignoring Jin's squawk of protest. He's a little too old-fashioned. That's it. He twirls the pen in his hand before returning to his paperwork. The biggest problem is what to do with the land of rice. The daimyo was killed during the war, and its shinobi were all dead or missing, and of course Sarutobi had to go kill himself to avoid the paperwork. Why don't you just appoint a governor to manage the reconstruction, or delegate your own powers? Jin asked, landing next to Kakashi and peering over his shoulder at the documents. Delegate my powers, huh? That was actually a good idea. It would also let him handle more pressing issues, instead of micromanaging everything. You're right, Jin, he exclaimed. I am. Jin jumped as Kakashi slapped him on the back. What are you doing? He cried out as Kakashi began to write rapidly, tossing aside the papers detailing the issues and sound. Making a new government, of course, Kakashi said, eyes smiling at his younger brother. I'm not going to spend my entire life in this office. Shouldn't you summon the council for such an important event? Jin questioned. That's, Kakashi grinned. A great idea. How you became Hokage is beyond me. Kakashi just chuckled nervously. Let's not worry too much about that now. And call the council for an emergency meeting while you're at. Understood? Lord Hokage, Jin muttered sarcastically. Kaito clasped hands with Shiro and pulled the black-haired nin in for a hug. Not that Shiro liked hugs, he was a tad bit prickly for them. Almost like a hedgehog in that regard. It's good to see you, Shadow, Kaito teased as Shiro's frown deepened. The two were currently within river country, on the banks of the nation's many rivers, of course. You haven't changed, Shiro grunted, reaching into his cloak and handing a scroll to Kaito. I guess both of us haven't. The Uchiha had always been a man of few words, especially since the death of his brother. The two of them had first met when they were children on the run, sticking together in a desperate attempt to survive. Kaito reached for one of the small pebbles on the bank of the river, feeling its weight in the palm of his hand. Shiro raised one eyebrow, but otherwise remained content from his position against a tree. Kanoha's role is complete, Kaito said, and Shiro nodded. The pebble flew through the air, bouncing gently against the water. What about a spar? A spar? Kato's lips curved upwards, and he started to gather his chakra, only for Shiro to launch a barrage of Koani. The blades sliced through the air in a second, only to be stopped by a rapid burst of air ripping out from Kato's frame. Curious, Shiro commented. When nature chakra being expelled from my tankasatsus, was Kato's explanation. I haven't been able to perfect it yet. He was interrupted by Shiro closing the distance between them. Kunai a hair's breadth from Kaito's face. Narrowly maneuvering his head away from the assault, Kaito moved his hand through one-handed seals behind his back. When Shiro brought his kunai back around, Kaito released the chakra building up in his throat. Futon, great breakthrough. The torrents of air ripped through Shiro, who collapsed into a pile of black liquid. He could feel the temperature rapidly rise, and quickly performed a substitution jutsu to flee from the resulting explosion. The two shinobi met in a new clearing, shifting instantly into a battle of taijutsu. "Not bad," Shiro said, smirking cruelly. "Mangekyo Sharingan." Kaito immediately closed his eyes, a grin forming on his face. Huh. A rush of energy leaked into his body as he focused on the seals he had placed around their battleground. Ninja Art Drainstorm. A unique fooing technique that relied on sound waves to negate ocular genjutsu and provide a way of moving without use of the eyes. "I should have expected nothing less," Shiro snarked, as the two exchanged blows. "Those fancy eyes of yours won't be able to do anything, Shiro." "Then how about this? Fire-style dancing burst." Fire roared around Shiro, cloaking each of his limbs in fiery armor. The rapid crackling and shifting of the flame lowered the effectiveness of Kaito's own jutsu, but he was prepared. By referencing his position with that of the seals, he would be able to continue moving. But engaging in taijutsu wasn't going to be his cup of tea. So instead, he leaned back and compressed his body, squaring his arms to absorb incoming damage. His next move was one that required a precise degree of chakra control. Chakra reinforcement. It allowed his body to stand the constant heat emitting from Shiro's punches and to fight back. But it also had a second function. Each one of Kaito's limbs shifted into springs, absorbing the kinetic energy from each of the attacks directed towards him. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and Kaito could feel the stress building up. Shiro leapt back, watching closely. "A new move, Kaito." "Yeah." A vicious grin ripped on Kaito's face as he threw back his head and laughed. "Let's go." In a blinding flash, Kaito appeared in front of Shiro, hands spinning upwards into a brutal uppercut, wind chakra molding into his hand. Rosyankin, a blade of purely compressed chakra inspired by the Yondaime's Rasengan. It ripped through Shiro's defense, and Kaito's lips pulled upwards into a victorious grin. But when another puddle of mud greeted him, he rapidly spun around to meet Shiro's own blade. "Absorbing my own chakra and storing it across your entire body using Fulen," Shiro mused. "That's not all, Shiabro." Sparks flew from their clash, and both men forced all their strength into their arms. But Kaito had an advantage. His unique jutsu would allow him to redirect all his power into one specific body part. Yellow lines began forming across his body as Fuin script sprung into life, raw chakra being funneled into his arm muscles and sword. The compressed wind blade grew nearly 2 times in size as Kaito swung, breaking Shiro's in seconds, only to meet a black ribcage. The Susanoo, Kaito watched slowly, moving backwards. "Come, Kaito, show me the power you possess." Shiro thundered as the great Tengo ascended into the air. "Shiro, don't you think we should keep attention to ourselves? You know that was never the goal." Kaito sighed. Danzo had told the both of them to engage in a massive fight within the land of rivers, to create a distraction for Sand to invade. And Shiro clearly wanted to test how far he had gone. Kaito knew that the loss of his older brother would forever haunt him. "I can take care of myself," Kaito cried upwards, readying himself. His sensor seals had already detected some movement in the distance. "Then prove it!" It was essential to show the sheer might of Konoha. Danzo had ordered them to make a thundering declaration, one that would awe all the other nations. Sighing slowly, Kaito reached for the seal attached to his stomach and pulsed it gently. It was the result of extensive experimentation on Byuju chakra, the creation of pseudo-jinchuriki, akin to the gold and silver brothers. By mixing it with his own chakra and compressing it multiple times, he too would be able to form his own avatar. Roaring loudly as blazing orange chakra engulfed him, a fox rose up into the air. Except the fox only had 2 tails and wings, because half of its chakra had been from the 7 tails. Shiro grinned. "That's it. Show me more. More of this power." Insanity was leaking into his voice, and Kaito's brow furrowed in concern. Shiro wasn't acting insane. He was relishing this moment. It was amazing to see how far Kaito had come from the sickly child he had been. His grin only widened as he felt the sheer might of the Byuju chakra. It lacked any mind of its own, merely an energy source now, but it was still worthy of respect. and it would be impossible for him to cast any Genjutsu now, would it? He didn't need to worry about losing Kato, so he might as well raise the stakes. The great form of the Susanoo clapped its hands together as Shiro rushed through hand seals. Katan, Tengo Flame. The pitch-black wings fanned the heavenly fire emerging from his mouth, tearing through the entire forest. That would surely send a message, Shiro mused. Kaito's response was flap his own wings and take to the sky, no doubt using some kind of wind jutsu. Sutin! Great flood, he roared, as the fox opened its mouth at the apex of its flight, and Shiro was once again reminded of why Kaito was so strong. His mastery of the elements, the massive amount of smoke his Keita and jutsus had released, was now being used against him. He could see rain clouds gathering, and a large downpour begun to flood the land. Within the howling winds of the storm, Shiro called out, "So Kaito, is that it?" Kaito simply frowned. "I think you've got it wrong, Shiro." Shiro could feel a buildup of chakra around him and readied the unbreakable armor of the Susanoo in anticipation. "I'm just getting started." Futon. Kamikaze. The great fox raised both of its front paws into the air as wind and lightning began to gather. Feel the force of 100 storms in a second. The raging storm was brought down onto Shiro, who simply closed his eyes. A smile creeps up his face as he whispers, "Amatsumora." The unique ability bestowed upon him once he awakened the Manjikyo, Sharingan, the one eye of heaven. Kaito's kamikaze vanishes, while a shining crystal sword forms within the Susanoo's hands. "So, this is your Manjikyo ability." Shiro ignores Kaito's question, focusing on the power of the Amatsumara located within his right eye. While his left eye can invalidate techniques and create a mirror weapon of them, in this case, the sword, his right can turn that mirror into a summon. "Come forth!" He can feel the drain on his chakra, but ignores it. A massive three-headed hawk forms next to him, spiraling into a dive as it leaps for Kaito. But Kaito dodges to the side, and Shiro makes out distortions appearing across the air as the eagle is bound by chains of Fuin. Script. "Take this, foreign-induced explosion wind." The eagle collapses as Kaito uses his fox's wings to send a hurricane of explosive seals at him, all connected by strings to the eagle. Shiro dismisses the summon and rushes through the explosions, hand outstretched for the fox's throat. The sword in his right hand shines brightly as he brings its edge down. Kaito's response is to simply dismiss his avatar for a second and spin through the air, hands meeting each other in a snake seal. He flashes a cocky smile back at Shiro, which Shiro returns. "This is..." Kaito yells. "It's the end," both of them yell. Shadoro unleashes the full power of his mirror sword, dropping a veritable typhoon on Kaito's head, who simply disappears. Shiro suddenly feels a large pulse of chakra from behind him and turns around to see Kaito clutching a kunai within the returned avatar of the fox. But Shiro's attacks are swallowed up by seals, to which he responds by turning them into mirror kunai. But Kaito is faster than Shiro, rapidly flashing through the air and striking the Sozin. This is the power of the Flying Thunder God, which Kaito somehow learned. But Shiro isn't out yet. Not by a long shot. Wrapping all the mirror kunai into one hand, he places his hand in the ox seal. Ninja Art Heaven Bomb. What happens when you unload the equivalent power of several tailed beast bombs, compressed into one place, and then compressed once again by his Amatsumara? He isn't sure how many times he used it, but it should be enough. Kaito gasps as the massive explosion emerges from the Susanoo, tearing up the entire valley they are currently in. Not that there is much left since the start of their fight. It destroys the majority of the fox's chakra, which was already running dry. He will have to refill it. They haven't completed enough research to create an actual artificial Baju. As his feet touch the burnt ground, his eyes meet Shiro's. Both of them pause, estimating their chakra levels. No surprise, they're nearly out. "I think that's enough," Kaito finally says, panting as the adrenaline fades away. "Yeah," agrees Shiro, gasping for air as he smiles weakly. "Cheat eyes. Fuan. Got me there." Kaito sighs as memories flood back into focus. The three of them, Shiro, him, and Takahashi, had been trapped within a temple where they had taken refuge in, and Kaito had been the one to unlock the seals. Whatever he had learned had been from the temple's cryptic carvings and rotten books. The hunger to survive had been the only reason they had lived to tell the tale. When he and Shiro had met Danzo after, he had engrossed himself in the study of Fiinjutsu and of the legacy left to him. It was the least he could do. As Obito watched the sheer destruction wrought by the fighters, his frown deepened and deepened. It was clear that he would have to act soon, if he would have hope of ever winning. He doubted that he would be able to win against them. He could survive, of course, but to win, maybe Nagato could, but that would require some careful manipulation. If he acted against Konoha now, he would have to deal with the sheer wave of Sax-ranked shinobi they had, but he had his own, didn't he? "You will have to act soon," drawled Zetsu. "Danzo has become too powerful. We must attack now, before they become too strong. What of the other villages? Once they see how Konoha has fallen, they will lose hope. Konoha is the only true issue." "Fine then," Ubedo said, raising his head up. "Inform Nagato that we will strike within a week's time. I will secure the Nine Tails personally. The Akatsuki would be more than enough to distract the rest of the village." Zetsu didn't respond, simply sinking into the ground. Obito clenched his hand. He would create a world of true peace. Not even Kakashi would stop him.